Create or die? That is the question. For me, I always choose create. How about you? Well, you've chosen to listen to or watch this podcast. Create or die. Now, can you believe it? It's that time again. Another episode. What is this? Episode number 16 or something? We just blew right on past that 15 episode average for most podcasts before they drop on out of there. Not us. We're here for the long haul. So buckle up. Yeah. A little bit of Adam Sandler weirdness. Well, anyways, it's here. And before we get into the topic of the day and the intro of our super awesome guest, let me just do a little business. As you know, we've been doing this podcast for a few months now, and appreciate all y'all telling your friends and telling your family. And you know you can head on over to createordie.net and get you some sweet merch. You know you can do that. But did you know that you can head on over to YouTube's for free? youtube.com/createordie. And what can you do? That's right. You can click that subscribe button, because that's a free way to help the cause, to help us keep bringing out killer content to you all. All right. So help a brother out, help a podcast out, and do your part. Thank you. Now I'm excited. This week's guest is a graphic designer by day and maker extraordinaire by night. From big stitch hand quilting and printmaking to beautiful hand lettering and baking, Annalee does it all. In addition, she is literally one of the sweetest, most genuinely good humans on the planet. Join me as I get the scoop on Annalee's origin story and her insights on what it's like being a working designer today in all this craziness. It's not just doodles and rainbows, but is it as satisfying? Let's find out. Let's roll. Awesome. This will be fun to learn more about you, Annalee, and thank you for agreeing to do this little program.
Heck yeah. I'm happy to.
Yeah, good. I'm happy to have you. But yeah, I mean, maybe you can tell me and our tens and tens of listeners about, how you got into, well, first of all, what is it that you do to create in general? I know that you're a designer, but are there other creative outlets that you have?
Definitely, yeah. So everyday life, I'm a graphic designer, but then kind of maybe after hours or weekends.
Yeah.
I love doing hand-drawn typography, which sometimes sprinkles into my 9 to 5. But then also I love quilting. I feel like I was born to be a 90-year-old woman, but quilting has actually been a really big passion within the last few years, which has been such a fun outlet to explore, I guess.
Yeah.
I grew up with that, just like with my grandma and my aunts doing it, and I got into it and just kind of put a little bit of a spin on it, which has been really fun to explore. And then just other than that, I feel like I think as creatives, you're always trying to like seek opportunities that you can put a spin on things or put your own little oomph on.
Totally.
So like I try to make it a goal every season to like make sugar cookies for my neighbors that, you know, are relevant to that season. Or
Right.
I love to print make as well. That's been like a funny thing that came out of college, because you were always required to take random classes, right? Printmaking was one of them. So
Right.
I love to carve out my design, and then I print a lot of tea towels and shirts, which are fun.
Nice.
And then I really got into like textile weaving. A few years ago, I taught some classes with it, and that was just a fun thing to do as well. Just kind of random, but I remember doing that in high school. Like I took a lot of kind of home ec classes,
Yeah.
and they taught you how to weave with like paper and all the different patterns. And then I thought, I think I could make like a wall hanging or a pillow out of that.
Yeah.
And then like I said, taught some classes and things, so that was a fun exploration. I don't know, I kind of feel like I get hyper focused into one fun thing and then move on to the next. But that makes life interesting, right?
Yeah, for sure. I love it. Those are some awesome little hobbies you've got there. And I like your point about putting your own spin on it. So and I'm curious with quilting.
Mhm.
I've never done it. I've seen it done.
Yeah.
I've used quilts before
Yes.
to keep me warm. So I'm an expert in that regard, but curious what you've done with quilting to put a spin on it.
Yeah. So traditionally, not I mean, this is from personal experience. So there may be a quilter out there listening that's like, this girl is dumb, but from what I've done, my growing up, like I said, my grandma was really big into quilting. I think as maybe most grandmas were. But they did a small stitch quilting, and
Mhm.
that just means, and so sorry, I should back up. It's all hand quilted. And so
Okay.
kind of like a trend right now is machine quilting. You can send it off to I don't know, different stores or different people who,
Yeah.
offer those services, and they can machine quilt it. And that is incredible. And there are some very talented people out there. But I love a hands-on experience, and I love a long process. Like
Oh, wow.
I love pattern making. I love things like that. So if there's like the longer the process, the better. And so I knew though I could not do a small stitch quilting, which is like what my grandma used to do. And it was tiny and it was precise
Yeah.
and it was exact. And if you know me, you would never use those words to describe me. Tiny, precise, exact.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
so I uh decided to take a different direction and do big stitch quilting. So they're larger stitches and it's done with like embroidery floss.
Okay.
And I think it's kind of cool because the quilting then becomes like another part of the design, because sometimes with that small stitch quilting you have to see it really up close, and
Yeah.
um, it's difficult maybe to see all the detail that goes in with it. But with this big stitch, it almost is becoming just like another design element, and it can
Yeah.
enhance the quilt piecing itself. So that's been kind of fun, and I've been exploring making my own patterns, which has been interesting to say the least when it comes to when you need to start cutting and actually sewing.
Yeah.
Because then you find out that your measurements were not exact and your quilt shows up about half the size that you thought it was. But it's been good to learn and kind of get tips and tricks from other people, and
Yeah.
it's a fun process.
No, that's super fun. And I definitely can appreciate what you're saying about the bigger stitching being kind of a design element and adding
Yeah.
a different texture, because yeah, some of those, whether they're machine quilted or just super precise, yeah, kind of disappears and
Yeah.
you don't notice that.
No, and it's a shame because it's a lot of hard work. So I was
Yeah.
like, no, you're gonna see my stitches. You're gonna see the effort that went into this.
Right. I love it. And then you mentioned that you like a long process, which
Mm,
I would um assume that that's rare in people, because people want to get something done and be on to the next thing. And
yeah.
so but I think that that's also a good trait for an artist or a creator in general, to have the patience to see something through,
Yeah.
because I think that that's something I've identified in some of my kids or other people that are looking to create something. They don't want to dedicate the time to,
Mhm.
learning the craft, and
Right.
then they see, someone did this beautiful piece, whether it's a quilt or a 3D model or a hand drawn illustration, and they want the secret. How can I do that in
Mhm.
a half an hour or maybe an afternoon? But
Yeah.
to take the time to revisit the same thing for days and weeks and even months. So talk a little bit more about that long process and what you like about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it kind of stemmed from like class and being in school. And if you can imagine, I wasn't like excelling in my math classes or science classes. Hence why I went
Hey,
into
me either.
the arts.
Yay.
Yeah. Hopefully other people can relate to that. um, so I feel like I would just doodle a lot. And in doing so, I would make like very elaborate patterns on my notes papers,
Yeah.
and at the end of the class, it was like, oof, I like how that looked. Like, I like that took a hot minute and that you
Yeah.
got like a satisfying reward, that it looked like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that put in some time. So I think that's kind of the beauty of a long process, is it's like you were saying, some people want that shortcut. Some people want to say like, well, is there a brush out there that could cut me half the time, or is there
Right.
a tool that I could use? And it's kind of like, no, it's nice that it takes uh, a hot minute to create. And there's beauty in slowing down and enjoying that
Mm-hmm.
time, to that kind of struggle to get there.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I love it. Great. And it's good for this time of year, as we're um, some of us have set resolutions for the year, and we're getting to that middle of January, hitting February, where people kind of forget about it, and oh man, I've been working out
Yeah.
or starving myself for a couple weeks and I don't see a difference. I'm just going to give up or whatever. But reminder that there is a reward from
Yeah.
taking some time, putting the time in
Oh yeah. There's that quote from uh oh my gosh, what is it called? Why did I just blank? I have this horrible brain fog recently.
it.
Um it's Jimmy Dugan in, oh my gosh, Tom Hanks. It's the
Okay.
softball or baseball movie. What am I saying?
Right. Yeah.
What?
In League of Their Own.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's like one of my favorite movies. I feel so stupid right now, but anyways, Jimmy Dugan says, like it's the hard that makes it great.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that struggle, that burn that pays off in the end.
Oh, I love it. That's great. So you've got all of these fun, creative outlets, and like you said, you're a graphic designer by day. You're 9 to 5. Um,
Mhm.
how did you get on that path? How did you initially get into design?
Right. Yeah. So this starts back in the late days of my high school career. um it was
So
about
that
the
was
last
like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, no, it was not. It was almost 10 years ago,
What?
unfortunately.
No.
Oh my gosh. I always think that I'm still 18. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I'm old. Um, so yeah, my last semester of college, I feel like, I mean, of high school, they, start putting pressure on you. Like, what are you gonna do with your life? Where are you gonna go? Where are you headed? And I thought that I needed to have that figured out right then
Yeah,
there. So I would make my mom stay up till like 3 a.m. almost every night and just like beg her to tell me what I should do. Like, where should I go? What should I study? I don't want to waste money going to college unless I know what I'm going to be doing. And
totally.
um, I'm a worrier, obviously. So she'd said, I'm sure just out of like frustration, like, oh, what do you want to do? Like, don't think about necessarily like the final job, but like just
Yeah,
blanket, what would you want to do with your life? And um I think then me, out of frustration, I was like, well, I just wish I could doodle all day. And she was like, well, go into graphic design. And I was like, is that what they do? And she was like, I don't know, probably.
probably.
Yeah, and I was like, cool. So honestly, like the next morning I woke up and was like, so graphic design is what I'm gonna study. That's what I'm gonna do. And I had no clue what that meant. But it sounded fun. So I did a little bit of research, thought it sounded great. And my goal was to go to Utah State University. That's where I wanted to go to. And then after I decided graphic design, I found out their program was actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and so I took my first official art class college. My first day of college was my first official art class. And um, I took like random classes that you're required in high school and junior high, like art
Yeah.
one or and
Sure.
those were all fun. I always loved those classes. But I think I fell into like your traditional teenage self where you just gravitate towards classes that your friends are in, not necessarily what you want to go into.
Yep.
So I didn't always take art classes, even though I had genuine interest in them. But first day of college, I took drawing one. Was not my strongest class, but I learned so much. And I feel like it was a really good jump into the art world just because my teacher, hippie skateboarder who was literally in jail one night. He was late to class because he
Wow.
had, so many parking tickets that he never paid for, and got to see his mugshot, and
Nice.
taught us about graffitiing. It was just a funny introduction to the world. And then when I went to actually go apply for the graphic design program, I didn't realize that it was not just like anyone is welcome. We will take you.
Yeah.
You had to apply and you had to be accepted. And Utah State's program only accepts 20 students per year.
Wow.
And the year that I applied, I think they said they had over 80 applicants. So I felt really grateful to be accepted because I look back at that portfolio, that first application, and it was so bad. It was rough. And it was just like random projects that you had throughout your art classes, but
Yeah.
man, were they rough. So I'm so grateful they saw even like a shred of possibility in me. But yeah, I loved my program at Utah State. It was incredible. I loved my professors, and my friends were amazing. And it was such a good place to learn and explore freely.
Mhm.
They really encouraged us to find different styles that you liked, to find creative processes, and to network. Like, I don't know, there's just so many benefits I found going to school and learning from these professionals. And then what was great too is they'd always host a seminar once a week with industry professionals and leaders. And that was awesome to do workshops, with Aaron Draplin and these
Yeah.
amazing people that you can learn from. So I loved my experience there. And then I graduated and was like, oh my gosh, I actually have to find a job. I have to find a way to live. And I applied, as one does, to a million places. You go to your first interview and you botch it because you've never done it before. So I'm
Right.
really sorry to the one tech company I applied for and was 15 minutes late to my interview.
Oh man.
They were
Yeah.
the guinea pig, unfortunately. But luckily enough, I had a friend of my cousin's who was like, hey, are you looking for a job by chance? And I was like, heck yeah, I am. And he was like, well, you should come work at my place. And so MX, I don't know if I'm allowed to say MX, but MX
Sure.
was my first job out of college. And I was so grateful again that you guys took a chance on me, just because I feel like, again, you look back at your portfolio and you're like, woof, that was all student work. You didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, none of that was work that I'd done for clients or for people or actual companies. So that was, like I said, just very grateful that you guys saw potential, I guess. And I've been there now 3.5 years. So
It's
it's kind of
crazy.
where I'm at, my journey to be
Yeah.
here.
Where does the time go? That's awesome.
Honestly, so it feels. I think that whole pandemic kind of made me blink.
Yeah.
Fast.
No, yeah, that was weird. We all lost like 2 years somehow in there.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah, no, I'm sure that your department head of graphic design back in the day saw some of the same things that we saw as we met you and looked at your portfolio. And uh, because I think we're harder on ourselves sometimes than others, and there's I've always been one that says portfolio first. Doesn't matter what kind of education
Yeah,
background you have. I mean, it may have been like the traditional route through a good school like you went to, or it could be just someone who's a hungry self learner and is
definitely.
able to pull together a good portfolio. Uh,
Yes.
but maybe as important, or I may argue more important, is a person's like attitude and
Mm.
passion for the work and their willingness to be humble and teachable. And you not only had a great portfolio, but you had the attitude to go along with it. And
That's very kind of you.
and if there was an award at MX for the person that's most genuine and
Oh,
awesome person, that would probably go to you every time. So,
oh, I can think of a few other people, but that is very kind, Ike. My
no,
gosh.
no,
No.
we love having you on the team. So that's
Thanks.
awesome.
I'm grateful to be there for sure. I
Good.
wake up every day grateful that I get to do what I do and I get to work with the people that I work with. It's kind of a fun pinch me moment every now and again, It's just
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, if my seventh grade self could see where I ended up now, I just feel like she would be doing cartwheels. And like I couldn't
Yeah.
do a cartwheel in seventh grade, but she'd learn. Like I feel like it's just a great pinch me moment. So
That's good. Even though you don't get a doodle for 8 hours a day, it's a
yes,
little,
I should
the
clarify.
work is a little different than that, right?
Yes, I should clarify. That is not what graphic design is. I learned very quickly into my intro to graphic design courses that was so off. But hey, it led me in the right direction. And some days you do doodle, but
Yeah.
it's a little bit more serious. It's not quite as flippant, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I've mentioned on this program before and probably at work that for me, as someone who thought that I wanted to go into hand-drawn animation and that was all I wanted to do, um, I was grateful to learn about this thing that at the time they called multimedia, where you could have all of these different disciplines that you work on. One day you'd be working on UI design, the next day you're doing hand lettering, the next day maybe you're doing some animation or whatever. And I found that someone who's self prescribed with creative ADHD, um, it suits me well. It's nice sometimes
Yeah,
to have that variety and not
definitely.
even sometimes you don't even feel creative, and it's like nice to have a project that's just like busy work a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. No, I
If
think
you were
that's
just
very
having
good.
to create an amazing concept every hour of every day and create something that no one's ever seen before,
Yeah,
A, that would be impossible, and B, it would be mentally draining pretty quick.
for sure. No. But it is kind of cool too, those things that you do um maybe is like having a break from design, or not from design, but just from like everyday things, or to stop you from burnout. That they can lead into passions, or they can lead into areas that you didn't even know that you could explore. I feel like that throughout college, like I said, throughout high school and college, in my classes when I was supposed to be taking notes, I would be trying to change my writing while I was like I would write in different like fonts, right?
Yeah.
Like I would try different handwriting styles, and genuinely loved, and because of that I got into calligraphy. Like it was an interest of mine.
Yeah.
Started kind of taking courses on that, or like being taught. My aunt's a calligrapher artist, and so I
Nice.
had her teach me, and then that led into hand painting signs and prints that I then sold to help me get through school. So,
Wow.
it's sometimes those just kind of funny like breaks from burnout or some, can lead into really awesome things. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
love that. And that's a good attitude to have. I think Trevor and I were talking about something along those lines in the last episode. So that's awesome that you help reinforce that idea. So, to follow up on what we've been talking about here, your experience as a creative and how you went through school and design. You've been at MX now for 3.5 years. Uh, do you have a favorite part of the creative process, like the design process or anything?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I was kind of trying to think about this, because there's a lot to your creative process. I mean, sometimes there's not. Sometimes you have um, a lightning bolt thought and you move on it, and it works great and you're done with it, right? But that's still, unfortunately for me, that doesn't happen every day. But so I was trying to kind of think about this, and for me, I feel like I love I love the beginning stages of the creative process or your design process or whatever it might be. Personally, so since graphic design is like my main focus, when I'm given a project, when I'm able to, not, I mean, I don't do this every day, but when I can, I will try like beginning sketching stages just on some vellum paper that I have. And I think that that kind of beginning start is so fun because there's no like oh, what's the word? Like there's nothing permanent about it. You just sketch what you've got on your mind, you get it down on paper, and you move on to the next one. Nothing's detailed,
Yeah.
it's just initial thoughts. And I think it's really nice just to feel like, if it works, it works. We're going to see down the road, but I got that idea down and let's move on to the next one. It's quick, it
Yeah.
moves fast. Um, but then I also think because of that, it sets you up for a really great foundation when you go to start your actual design, like when you
Mhm.
actually go start it digitally. And like I said, I kind of am in a hands-on learner and maker. I feel like I love things with my hands. So if I can do like more of an analog start to the process, I think it kind of helps get my mind rolling. And then from there, I think it's so satisfying when you do reach your end goal, your end result, to look back on those sketches and see like its humble beginning, to say like, oh my gosh, this, not that it's a masterpiece, it's not the Mona Lisa, but it's so fun to see like, this is where it ended, but this was its fun little beginning.
Yeah.
So I like those beginning stages. They seem most fun, they seem most exciting, and it kind of fuels your passion to get through that kind of hard part of problem solving in the middle.
Yeah. No, I like the way you describe that. Yeah, kind of that you're just ideating, you're throwing stuff down. There's no such thing as a bad idea or a bad doodle,
Yeah,
because you can just move on and
yeah.
uh,
It's quick, it's
yeah,
scrappy, it's
yeah,
kind of cheeky. You get done what you need to get done, and it goes.
yeah,
I was also trying to think though, what kind of went along with this in my mind was like the creative process for me, I think starts even before like that idea, or like even beginning it.
yeah,
I feel like in college I had a professor that at the time I was kind of like, whatever, but he told us like you really need to start practicing creative habits right now so that when you are presented with a project or a challenge or whatever, that you are prepped and ready to begin.
Hmm.
And in school, I think that you are flying from the seat of your pants. You're just trying to get through. You've got like 10 different projects going on, and you're kind of just a machine. Like, I look back on college, I'm like, what in the heck was I able to produce? Like, oh my gosh, I was just working until like 4 a.m. most nights, and then waking up at 10 and going to class. And I don't
Yeah.
know, it was wild. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, if I don't have the right setup, I can't, I can't function. So I think the creative habits, like creating creative habits, so that when it's
Mhm.
time to get down to business, you're prepped and ready.
Yeah.
Um, and so I kind of had thought of like a few things that maybe helped me get to that point.
Yeah. Let's hear them.
Um, so one of the biggest things I think personally, just my own personal struggle, is like I have to be kind of careful about what I'm creatively ingesting, like what I'm seeing, or making sure that I'm not constantly scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or things like that, that I'm looking at the right kind of things that I feel inspired by, that I feel uplifted, that I'm excited by, or that I'm watching movies that make me pumped. I mean, like anything Wes Anderson, I feel like I put that on and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to make some art. It's great. And then I also think it's like also important to have a comfortable space that you can go to, that your mind knows that that is your design area. That I think in college I got into a really bad habit of just designing on my couch, because again, I'd be designing until 3 or 4 in the morning watching movies. um but now that I'm a professional,
That's right.
working professional, I'm not, but
Yeah.
um that I have the area that I'm in, that when I sit down, my brain, my body knows, like, okay, we're getting ready to work, and you're inspired by it.
Hmm.
Um, and then you're not being distracted, like, oh, where's that pen that I needed? Where's that notebook that I was looking for? Where's my charger? It's like you're in your zone.
Yeah.
And then the last one was just allowing yourself to explore your creativity without judgment, or kind of like that critical, snarky voice in your mind. And I think that can kind of be tied, like I said, with that sketching process, is just you're just designing because you're passionate about it, and you don't necessarily need to think like, well, what will they think about it? Or, what would that designer do? You're making work that you find um, fun and exciting to do. So
Yeah.
anyways, that was a really long-winded answer.
No,
Hopefully,
it was great.
hopefully you don't have to edit a whole bunch out of that.
No, that's gold. I think people are going to find that valuable. The idea of having a creative space, it's like the Atomic Habits book. If you've read or listened to any of that, just kind of, you have things that trigger you to think a certain way and get into. So that's nice that you have design space where it's like, okay, it's time to get down to business.
Yeah. And I know sometimes you don't always have that blessing. Like I said, in college, you just kind of are rolling with the punches. But even now, like maybe if you're just starting into design, you don't have, an office space or a desk to go to, or, a studio or anything. But I think there's ways to create those just in your own little world, your own
Yeah.
little bubble.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Uh, that triggered something in my mind about a process that I've incorporated. Um, and I'm curious, as a fellow designer, if you find yourself doing this or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because my first official design job was for a small design agency, and we were doing work for, local clients with real slim budgets. And so they would, my boss and the leadership there would put pretty tight windows. Like, it wasn't like, oh, just come back to me in a few days with a concept for this logo or
Yeah.
for this web page, homepage design or whatever, it would be like,
Mhm.
okay, you've got 2 hours to create a full homepage design, and all three of you are going to create one, and we'll get together and we'll pick one, and whoever's gets picked, they're going to run with it or whatever.
Yeah.
And that just seemed like an impossibly short amount of time.
Yeah.
um, so I found myself, uh, I'd hear that this project is coming up, but I hadn't hit start on my 2 hour, billable time limit yet. And so I started finding ways to design in my head a little bit, like,
Yeah.
okay, what type of client is this? What would their audience be like? What um, type of form language would work? And then it's taken a long time to, I wouldn't say I've perfected it by any means, but to make it where it actually is maybe somewhat helpful.
Yeah.
Um, so I find myself being able to, like, I can tell clients or a boss, like, even though I haven't put a pixel on the screen or haven't sketched anything, I don't have anything to physically show you, I've started the process,
Definitely. Oh, yeah.
and have you ever experienced that, or is that something, or am I
Yeah.
just talking crazy talk?
No, no, you're not. And I did have a very similar experience to that. Um, in the summers when I was in school, there was a uh, print shop, a local print shop on Main Street that I would go and work at as a designer. And again, so grateful that they would allow me to be there and work with them, because I wasn't even in my graphic design program yet. I just like knew Adobe
Yeah,
Photoshop and they
yeah,
were like, come learn. And that's how it was. They moved fast and you kind of had to see, and it was all communication with clients were over email, so you didn't even get to talk with them, which
yeah,
is, I feel like, such an important part of the process too. But because of that, it's true, you do learn how to work fast, but kind of how to read between lines and read between almost design lines, like I don't know. I feel like there's almost like a secret language or a secret code that you can kind of pick up on.
yeah,
But I also think that comes with like experience and um maybe like when you're presented with a project for the first time, say, I mean, for example, like one of my first designs at MX was ads. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never made ads before. And this is going to be seen by people. Like this
yeah,
will go out on the internet. And it's like working professionals and financial bigwigs. And so, the first time I did that was a little scary. And it was, took me probably significantly longer period of time than it should have. But then after that, you slowly gain confidence in yourself. You
Mhm.
gain just like I said, kind of those creative habits that you can accomplish.
Yeah,
Um and it's kind of a proud moment when you're done, right? You're kind of like, hey, I just did that. Like that was awesome. And I don't know. I think that's what I would think, that you kind of
yeah.
uh gain that through experience.
No, that's good. And I'm sure that'll be reassuring to those that are maybe just starting out or thinking about getting into this,
Yeah.
to know that, like, with experience comes that confidence, and and you can get into your own head and psych yourself out, like, oh, but in the
Oh
end,
yeah.
you know, there's lots of safety nets, and your art director isn't going to let something go out that would embarrass you or the
Also true.
company.
Oh my gosh, also true. My goodness. Yeah, those first designs are always the scariest, right?
Right. Totally. Well, speaking of someone who might be new to this world of graphic design, or maybe they're like you in your final semester of high school trying to decide what to go into, and let's say that they decided they want to doodle all day and graphic design. What's some advice that you might give someone in that position?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I was thinking about my younger self with
Yeah.
this, and uh trying to think like what would I tell her? And one would be not to worry so much. Clearly, I was very worried and stressed about where I was going to end up. And look, I ended up in a wonderful place that I could never have even imagined how great it could be. But things will work out how they should. But my biggest advice is to just have fun, because I think as creatives, that I think that's a big driving force. Not necessarily fun, and I don't want that to sound casual or immature, because I
Yeah.
think adults have fun, and that should be a big part of our life, finding joy and stuff. Um, but have fun with the unknown, and
Yeah.
make things that make you excited. And uh one thing that I thought of too was just that you don't have to be in a rush to find your creative niche.
Hmm.
I think in school, I would look at artists and other designers and think like, oh my gosh, they have their style figured out. They know exactly what they make, and you can pick their stuff out of a crowd. Like you can look at their artwork and that's done by them.
Yeah.
And in college, I thought that I kind of needed to have that done. Like when
Yeah.
people look at this, they'll know it's mine. And maybe they did, because it was kind of shitty. So like that's hers. but
Uh,
but like that's so like that's the funnest part of the process, is learning as you go and finding what you know what inspires you
yeah.
and what makes you want to do what you do. You know, I throw, this is a little side note, but I throw a lot of just random little get-togethers with my aunts and my girl cousins. We have little girl get-togethers. We do like Valentine's Day parties, and I do one called the Goddess Party, where all of the women come in togas and we share our wisdom with each other. But with each one of these things, I've been able to create like personalized invitations or menu cards, or like the Valentines, I make everyone bring a Valentine for your Galentine. So I make little cards and things. And those things are just fun. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm only doing them because I find them fun. I'm not doing them because I'm like, I'll, someone will like it. It's like, I wish I was that considerate of other people. It's like I just do it because I think it's fun and I enjoy it. So I think sometimes when you also just get into your career, like don't forget that passion that drove you to where you are now. And it's hard to do that sometimes because life is hard and there's long days and there's a lot of critics out there, especially when you are in our fields,
Yeah.
and it can be hard. But it's good to remember kind of why you began, the why you're here, why you've done what you've done. So that was it. And then another piece of advice that I thought of was just to constantly be learning, to be a
Yeah.
sponge, to learn from your coworkers, from other industry leaders, like just even like watching your Adobe Max, watching creatives on YouTube, listening to podcasts like Create or Die. Like
Right.
there's a lot that you can learn from, and there's a lot of books that you can be reading. And my aunt, like I said, she's a calligrapher, but my aunt has been a mentor kind of throughout my uh, design career. She is an artist and a designer, and she kind of what we were talking about, you can do an educational route, right? And
Yeah.
you cannot, and you can end up at the same places. And my aunt decided she didn't want to go to school, but she
Mhm.
worked her ass off and got where she was, and was incredibly successful. But I think too, with that, she has never stopped learning.
Yeah.
She's in her 60s right now, and still to this day, I'm calling her like, "Do you know this shortcut?" And she's like, "Oh yes, I remember when I learned this in this book." And she's always sharing her knowledge, and she's always sharing books with me. And as you can see, I'm like trying to create my own little library.
Yeah. It's looking good.
Um,
It's coming together.
not all of these are design books,
Yeah.
obviously. I'd say this part down, um, but it's pretty cool to just explore things because you can, there's always info out there to learn from. And to go along with that, like, be willing to share your knowledge with others too. You grow with others, and you don't get anywhere without the help of others. So be a mentor for those who need it, and share your little brain thoughts. So I don't know. Like I said, hopefully there was some ounce of advice out there that someone can help with, or that can help them. But that was just
those are great for new people, and a great reminder to old people like myself, where it's like, it can be hard, and try to have fun, and we have a value that goes along with that at MX about exuberance for life. And I remember when I first started here and seeing that value, I'm like, okay, I like that, but it sounded like something they just threw in there to trick people into working here because we work hard, we play hard type of thing.
Yeah.
But in reality, the way that I have learned to live it, or have seen it lived by people like you and others, is if someone is exuberant or happy about life and having fun, they're going to bring that energy to work, which is going to make it a more enjoyable atmosphere. Someone isn't complaining about their problems or making excuses all the time. They're glass half full type people, and those are the people I like to work with.
Definitely, yeah. Well, and I think as creators, we're looking, I mean, that's like what's fueling us, right? I mean, I don't want to say this in like a bad way, but like if we wanted to be out there making like a shiz ton of money, I don't know if we'd necessarily go into like the careers that we're like. I think our fuel is our passion, and is that outlook for joy and for love, and communicating with others, communicating our artwork with others. And so I don't know, I think that's a good reminder to have, just that's what we're here for, right? To have a good time, to live a good life, to find joy in our creations.
That's right. Well, this has been amazing, Annalee. I think you were worried if you'd have enough to share, but I think this is going to be one of our top episodes. So,
oh my gosh, stop! No,
yep.
I hope I didn't just make the biggest fool out of myself. I know I will end this meeting and say, like, why in the hell did I say that out loud?
No,
that didn't make any sense at all.
No, this has been great. But the final thing I want to ask you, or give you the opportunity to share, is, maybe you sell your quilt somewhere, maybe something else, or if someone like my daughter, who's just started in her art education career at UVU, if she has questions for you, what's the best way to reach out? Is there a social?
Yeah, my social media, you can find me on Instagram, just @_Jane. I'm on there, and that's about it. Social media wise. Yeah. Okay. No, but reach out. I don't know. I won't have, I'm not a knowledgeable person, but I love talking creatively, and I love interacting with people on there. It's such a cool space for creatives, and it's pretty cool to connect with people, across the world, but maybe have same creative passions and stuff. So
totally. Awesome. So that's say it one more time. Annalee _
Annalee _Jane.
Okay. We'll add a little text over this video for those that are watching the video version.
That's awesome. No, thank you so much. This is such a cool resource for creatives out there. I feel like this is just an awesome a little knowledge nugget that we get to learn from every week. So that's pretty cool, Ike.
It's one of my favorite terms, knowledge nugget.
There you go.
Nugs. And you dropped several of them on this call, so appreciate it. Okay, Annalee, well, thanks again for being on here, and look forward to continuing to work together.
Yay! All right, thanks so much, Ike. We'll talk to you later.
Whew, there we go. another good one. We did it. Thank you again, Annalee, for joining me. I think people are really going to get some of them knowledge nugs from this here episode. How do we do it? How do we keep doing it? Just one quality episode after another. Show me another podcast that delivers like this. Oh, the Joe Rogan Experience. Oh, Darknet Diaries. Oh, My First Million. Okay, there's a ton. I get it. But you know what? We're going to keep on keeping on, regardless. Yeah, there's a ton of content out there. And you chose this. Thank you. Thank you for making it all the way through, or fast forwarding to the end just to hear my silky smooth voice say 3 words: create or die.